All right, welcome in everybody here. I know it's been a while since I've been on, so happy summer. Haven't done one of these by myself without a guest in a while, so it's not looking like it here in Maryland, and especially up and down the East Coast with these ridiculous thunderstorms. As our beloved Baltimore Orioles, fresh off a excruciatingly painful loss last night, where we made four errors. Couldn't extend the win streak to eight. The Orioles are rained out today, meaning that we will be playing a doubleheader tomorrow. Very, very unlikely that the Orioles sweep that doubleheader. I would imagine Cade Povich getting some sort of significant time in there, if not starting one of the games. But should be, you know, we're in a much better spot now than we were had I done this like right before the All Star break. So coming in, winning seven in a row, 3 games under 500, a couple of games out of the wild card. Uh, Feelings are good in Birdland. Vibes are good, and wanted to touch on the biggest topic, kind of surrounding this. And if you guys follow me on X, I do appreciate it. I'm always up for you know good conversation and debate and things like that. Apology a lot of times when you see me get you know rude, not rude, but like not really embracing the debates on Twitter is when people just make false claims. For instance, Mike Elias doesn't extend people, this person doesn't do this person doesn't do this, when there's literal evidence that those are false, right? But just discussions around the player, who you want to acquire, what the lineup should be, things like that. Always great dialogue. And I'm really, really happy to engage with people. And, if you're taking the time out of your day to comment on mine, outside of a couple people who I know just do it out of complete disrespect, I'm flattered that you took the time, and if you're watching this, also flattered that you're taking the time as well too. Um, there's my biggest thing, and I had been saying this with a couple people. You know, had our boy Eric Arditi on. You know, Beginning of the season, I talked about trading Adley Rutschman and how I thought it was definitely something the Orioles could do. Talked about it with Pigtown Sports. Talked about it with you know my boy Nate, Eric again. It's definitely trading Adley Rutschman. I've been saying this for at least the last year, is something that the Orioles should more than explore, if not do, if the offer is right. And I'm not saying trade him for nobody. I'm not saying trade Adley and get two single A prospects and then you're done and you wipe your hands with it. And that would be selling off a piece just to sell, right? I still think you can trade Adley, and it's a prudent move to do, and still contend and also be buyers at this deadline. So just wanted to kind of talk through that. I guess, like, what would it mean? What are the reasons that there are that, at least in my mind, trading Adley is a good move? And I'm going to lay these out kind of one at a time here, and hopefully, if you guys agree, you think they're good points, great. If not, you could call me an idiot. Also fine as well. I think the number one thing that we're looking at is he's an aging catcher. For me, I said this last year. You know, he is going to be 29 at the start of next season, of the 2027 season. The odds of us having a baseball season that year are slim to none. So the next year that we have baseball, 2028, Adley will be a 30-year-old catcher. Do you really want to extend a 30-year-old catcher that, just alone, a 30-year-old catcher? Probably not, right? Like, do you want to give him 5 or 6 more years, knowing that that contract is probably going to age very, very poorly after year three? you know, Even if we have baseball in 2027, Adley has one more year of control after this year. So he'll be a free agent at the start of 2028 anyway. And by all accounts, that'll be point two. He's almost certainly going to test free agency. People are saying, oh, the Orioles need to make him, excuse me, top priority and extend him. And why hasn't it been done yet? Well, look at the deals. Bradish got done. Shane Baz got done earlier. Samuel Basayo got done. They've all taken pretty team-friendly deals. So why were those three able to get done, but Adley hasn't? Is it the Orioles haven't offered or even spoken to Adley about an extension or made an offer? Maybe. But when three other people get done under this regime, under Rubenstein, with Elias, when three other players get done, including a catcher, my guess would be Adley's turned it down. Now, he's in his right to turn it down. He thinks if he hits the open market, gets a certain rate, and that's where this comes in. He's almost certainly going to hit the open market. So if you extend him, yes, you're limiting all the other suitors, but you're also kind of bidding against yourself there, right? What if you offer him an extension, let's say for 15 million a year, he was only going to get 8 or 9 on the open market or 10 million, or hey, we need to sign him to 5 years and he was only going to get a 3-year deal at most. You don't want to bid against yourself. It was the same thing that happened with Kyle Schwarber. And as much as I love Schwarber, when you have the or Ranger Suarez too, yes, but you have the top end of the deal, you're not just going to keep upping it and upping it and upping it when no team is matching that. Now all of a sudden the team swoops in and matches it. You don't have your chance to move up. I see where that comes in, right? So Adley's almost certainly testing free agency. He's not a Scott Boras client, but all the signs, if we look at them, are pointing to it, right? So that's number two. So you have a 30-year-old catcher who I'm sure you've offered some sort of contract extension to, and he's turned it down. So two major points right there. And the third one to kind of go on to maybe it's 2A. He's got a year and a half of control left, right? So you let him walk, you get nothing for it, right? With having the possibly strike shortened season or no season next year, he's not in control unless, for whatever reason, if I'm wrong, let me know, unless they don't count that as a year of service time or a year on your contract. And then you do get 2028. But either way, 2028, we know he's going to be 30 years old. So that's also another talking point. Or that's also another point now where it makes him. I thought he was more valuable coming into the season. I would have did it last year, when everyone was talking about, well, he's in a down year. He's in a down year. Well, look at the years of control that he has. I mean, you saw what pitchers with 4 years of control go for. There's always that coveted player that we hear, oh, go get this guy because he's got 3 years of control, or go get this guy. And what do you think it's going to have to take to get a guy with 2, 3, 4 years of control? So I think we dropped the ball with Adley last year coming into this offseason when he would have been 2 years of control, or even, 2.5 if you trade him last year versus now. So you got to kind of pull the trigger now. It's kind of now or never to me. And if you don't want to do it, if they're not going to do it, that's fine. But if they are going to do it, don't do it in the offseason. Don't wait. Do it now. Number 4, and this is one that I know is very, very unpopular for everybody, is you just land on the IL again, right? So it's 3 IL stints in the past year. We all remember him playing with the bad injury, I believe it was 2 years ago. Really ruined his entire second half. He even admitted, hey, I was hurt, banged up. Probably shouldn't have been playing, but wanted to play. And, props to him for playing through it, right? I mean, obviously that says a lot about him and trying to help the team. But you saw his performance, right? It was awful. So I'm counting that as an injury plague season. So you look at the number of injuries that he's had just since 2025 alone, plus you have an aging catcher. Are those injuries going to get suddenly better as he hits 30, 31, 32, 33? Probably not. They're already trying to limit his number of games played. Hey, why isn't Adley in after 2 straight games? Oh, we're giving him a day off, giving him a blow, right? Like, we've seen that. They've said that. So if they're doing that at age 28, what are they going to be doing at age 32, 33, right? You also have Pete Alonso for the next 5 years, and Alonso plays 162 games a year. He's not, nor should he, be benched in any capacity for Adley Rutschman. And Adley doesn't play first. Beside at least plays first, you have, for now, Kirby Mayo on this roster, possibly Ryan Mountcastle coming back. So you have a just the first baseman, and Adley's not playing any other position besides catcher. So if you're going to limit how he catches, or how many games he catches, and you're not even going to DH him, then what's the point of signing him to a long-term deal, basically as a glorified kind of backup catcher or a catcher who's splitting time? It just doesn't make any sense out there. And, this is also painful to say to, the masses as well too, but look at his numbers. I mean, before he went on the IL, now I know he's been hurt, right? So he's got 8 homers. I mean, he's got a good amount of RBI, but he's hitting 250. This wasn't Adley Rutschman that came in and, you know, slapping doubles, hitting in the high 280s. He's been a kind of this average run of the mill hitter like for a while now, and we can't say, well, when he's healthy, he'll produce. When he's healthy, he'll produce because he hasn't been healthy for an extended period of time. So if I took away his name and his draft position, I showed you a player who is going to be 30 come 2028, which might be the next time we have the offseason. He's only got a year and a half of control left. He's been on the IL 5 times since 2025. He produces at just a normal rate of players, maybe at his position, maybe a little bit above average because of where his position is. Is that a guy that you're like, oh my God, we have to extend him? Winning teams have to extend him. He's a guy that, like, oh my God, you can't trade him. No. I mean, the answer would be no. I know you say, hey, you can't take away his name or his draft position, but I also feel like that blinds people. They see, oh, pick number one, first pick in the Elias era. Super nice guy, face of the team. Okay. Winning teams are willing to trade a player like this. The stuff that is mentioned about him not being tradable because he was picked number one, because he's such a good guy, because he's like Adley Rutschman. That's what losing franchises do. Mike Trout, still on the Angels. Why? Well, he doesn't want to get traded, but they ain't trading him because he's the face of their franchise. They've won precisely maybe one playoff series with him. Byron Buxton refusing to get him traded out of Minnesota. They should absolutely be like, you're waiving your no trade clause. We're trading you. Face of the franchise was the number one pick, constantly hurt. Ring a bell? So now these guys have no trade clauses, so it's a little bit different, but any ownership group can do that, right? They can force people to, in retrospect, hey, we're trading you. Please waive your no trade clause. They can do whatever they do, right? With that. So we always talk about how, we want the Orioles to not be like those other loser franchises. And the last year and a half have not been good, right? We came out, we had a good offseason this year with getting Pete, getting Helsley. Obviously, he got hurt, getting Taylor Ward, except for when he looks at 95 on our center cut fastballs in the ninth inning when we need when we need hitters and people driving runs. But for the most part, he's been decent. I mean, you look at the pitching, it's been good, So I heard an argument yesterday from one of my buddies who I think is very knowledgeable. He doesn't like me. He thinks I'm annoying sometimes on X, but we're actually really good friends. And he said trading Adley Rutschman admits failure for Mike Elias that his number one pick he didn't hit on, and that's why he would never trade him and extend him. I think that's more than a fair point. My counterpoint to that though is any successful manager in business, you have to adapt. If you have a person who 5 years ago, was the first employee that you hired and they're great and things are going well, and then each year that person keeps declining and declining and declining, and your team hasn't really won anything with that person, and they're going to cost more, or they might leave, for whatever, down the road, and they haven't been living up to that, you have to cut your losses. Like, I think it would say more about Elias if he did say, you know what, I probably should have drafted Bobby Witt Jr. Adley, thank you for your time, but I care about winning more than I care about proving myself right and saying, hey, I'm sticking with Adley Rutschman no matter what, right? So that's kind of a very interesting point where people talk about Elias's ego and he only wants to be right all the time and prove himself right and show that he's smarter than everybody. But then it's like, oh, he has to keep Adley to prove that he's not a failure. Well, if trading Adley is best for the team, why wouldn't you do it? Right. So, and again, for those of you watching and you're like, you're an idiot, you're crazy, nice biceps though. I'm not saying just give him away, right? I'm not saying like, you know, oh, I'll use our prospects, or I'll use our people for an example. Well, Kobe Mayo and some high A prospect for, Adley Rutschman. I'm not saying that. If you get offers like that, you're hanging up the phone, right? But I'm willing to bet because of the way that, we all feel about him here. Hey, three-time All Star, really good dude, household name. When healthy, is good. How many contending teams, or even teams that kind of are on the fringe, would love to have that kind of guy? And I think they would value him pretty highly, right? If you get offered a big bullpen piece, or let's say you throw Adley in a Mason Miller deal, right? You wouldn't do that. Like, we talk about all these guys that we want, right? Like, oh, we want, you know, Reed Detmers, we want Mason Miller, we want XYZ. And I'm not saying that you're trading Adley for them straight up, but you want to get one of the biggest free agents, or one of the biggest trade pieces, Tariq Skubal, you're throwing Adley Rutschman in there, and then you're seeing building from there. He's a major league player who's been an all star. You could get so much for him, or he's the big piece in a trade to acquire a bigger piece, and you give up less because of him. Now, obviously, it depends how many GMs are out there, right? Like, I mean, that value him, but I'm willing to bet there's enough. I mean, you don't think Philly would like him in their lineup? I mean, JT Realmuto has been god awful. Now they're getting, that's their fault for signing him to that deal, but you could cut his contract in half and have Adley for a year and a half, or platoon both of them, right? You don't think, a team like the Red Sox, who has no help like at catcher, like, you don't think he'd be an upgrade there? You don't think he'd be an upgrade on the Yankees? You don't think he'd be an upgrade on the Rays? Like, I don't care about trading the division. I care about winning. Like, whoever gives you the best package. But there's plenty of people that will trade Adley, or that would give you a good deal for Adley. I like I said, I respect everybody's opinion, and I understand why people want traded. But I just ask, like, if you make a list of pros and cons for trading Adley, right? And your pros are, he's Adley Rutschman, he was the number one pick, and you can't really think of any other reason why, that probably tells you that's a player that should get traded, or that you don't necessarily want to sign long term, right? So if they didn't trade him and they let him walk and you get nothing for him, okay. But I'm not in the camp of extending him. So extending him is the last option to me. Letting him walk would be terrible, but at least you get the last year and a half, or however long, whenever there's a season next, or this last half year. Hopefully, you make the playoffs, you let it ride in Basayo. But trading him, I think, is a viable option for a team that can still buy and still improve their roster, right? Like, all of a sudden, you know, knock on wood, hopefully Basayo's not hurt, but if Basayo comes back, right, relatively healthy, he's your everyday catcher, go out, get a guy like Ryan Jeffers, go out and get someone, call up Greenwell Helms when he's healthy. You could go out and get serviceable backup catchers, the guy in Minnesota that's behind Jeffers. I mean, there's plenty of serviceable backup catchers that you could have, where you could still have the two-man game and not have a guy like Sam Huff hitting in there, right? Basayo's locked up for the next 8 years. You got Pete for 5. There's your cornerstones right there. Yeah. Samuel Basayo's 21 years old. He's going to be catching the majority of the time because Pete Alonso is playing for us the next 5 years. So then you just have a soon-to-be 30-year-old injury-plagued catcher sitting there. And I'm no baseball GM, but I would imagine in list of players that we must have, 30-year-old broken down injured catchers probably aren't high on that list of players that you need to help improve your roster. So we'll see if it happens. We're, about a little over 2 weeks away from the trade deadline. My gut's telling me right now that they are definitely considering it. Will it happen? I'm like 50-50 on it. The more and more that I think this last IL stint has made it more and more likely that's going to happen. Hopefully he comes back quickly, and that way they can trade him, because if he misses an extended period of time, then they can't. So if he's back anywhere right around the trade deadline, I do think he gets flipped, and I think you're going to end up getting a player in return and a high-level minor league prospect, a fringe player who's ready, plus one other piece, right? So it's going to be a good trade that will help your team now, and will help your team in the future. And if that happens, it's Adley, thank you. Loved you, man. You were I remember sitting in a bar in Tampa, Florida, wearing my Orioles gear. The Orioles were awful. We just got a new GM. We had the number one pick. It was our regime. I was so proud as an Orioles fan to be like, hey, we're getting the number one pick. We're getting a surefire, bona fide like stud. I wanted Bobby Witt. I was over the moon for Adley as well too. But it's a business. Your livelihood in sports is like that. You're not owed anything. The Orioles don't owe Adley. They drafted him. They went out and they made him a major leaguer. Now, yes, he was going to get drafted again, but he isn't. We don't owe him anything, right? Like the Orioles are the Baltimore Orioles. They're a team who is built like to make money. Obviously, number one, and number two is to win baseball games. That's their purpose. That's what every team is here for to do. So if we haven't won with Adley, how are we going to win when he's older, when he's hurt constantly, when he's not going to be able to play another position, when you already have a younger, better player locked up at his position for the next 8 years? Like, just think about that. But right now, hopefully we can take the doubleheader tomorrow. Hopefully, come the All-Star break, we're sitting in a playoff position. It's a great spot to have, right? And like I said, if we trade Adley, I'll be a little bummed and kind of surprised, but it's a business. I'll get over it. And, definitely looking forward to some engagement on Twitter, about the same topic. And, again, hey, if you disagree, respect your opinion. But I just think that if we look back in the mirror and we look at if Adley was picked number 20, is he untradeable? No, right? He's not. And so your argument is he's 1-1, right? Okay, Jamarcus Russell was the number one pick in the NFL. Okay, I mean, how many number one picks? Henry Davis, like Pirates fans hate his guts, right? How many players drafted number one and just fizzle out? It is what it is. You got 6 years out of him, 7 years, All-Star appearance. Came up at end of 2022. Remember we didn't get swept with him for like a year and a half. Like he was responsible for some very good times in Baltimore. And Adley is a good dude. Wish him nothing but the best if he gets flipped. But this Baltimore fan says you got to do it, and I won't lose sleep if you do. Have a good one. Go Birds.